Coming up on Smart Tech today, Matthew Cassinelli and I have quite a bit to talk about. Amazon just held its voice assistant event for Ziggy, aka Alexa, aka Amazon's voice assistant. We've got a lot of different names for it, but it was all about what developers can do with that voice assistant from Amazon. Plus, we talk about the Steam Deck, Valve's upcoming game console that's sort of a console, sort of not a console, and lots more, including protecting yourself online with a VPN and this clicky thing that slides onto the back of my iPhone. Stay tuned for Smart Tech Today.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Molecule. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. For a limited time, save up to $120 on Molecule air purifiers by visiting molecule.com and using promo code STT120 at checkout. Enjoy free shipping and a 30-day at-home trial on your order. Welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, dynamic, and, well, sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am your other host, Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Mikah. How's it going?
It is going well today. I am fed. I am watered. I am feeling good.
Nice.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Just a little bit of water, a little bit of food, and you've got the energy you need to make it through the day. Nice.
That's good. I'm getting excited because Ted Lasso comes out tomorrow, and that is a fantastic show. And
I agree.
I'm doing a whole article for iMore about Apple TV shortcuts, which is, I'll say that's smart home. Of course it is. So look for that on iMore and on my website tomorrow if anyone wants to check that out. It'll be like how to, you can basically, here's the kicker, is that you can basically add HomePod support for Apple TV by making your shortcuts that you can trigger with Siri. So it's actually super neat.
So does that go beyond the basics? Because right now I can say, hey, you pause the TV. Hey, you play the TV. Hey, you turn off the TV. Hey, you turn on the TV. Does this goes farther than that? What else can you do with it?
Yeah, you can. There's an open app action so that you can just open any app and do a whole sort of course, the inevitable Netflix and chill setup where it like dims the lights and opens Netflix right away. But you can set captions. One thing that's cool is you can change the user account. So you can kind of have like when basically because shortcuts will work on each person's devices, whoever runs the shortcut, it'll just automatically change to their account. So if you set it up that way, you might not want it, but that can be kind of nice. And then also just like changing the playback and stuff like that. So you could go forward and back. The one that I did is I've recreated the "what did they just say" feature of Apple TV. So it'll skip back 15 seconds, turn on captions, and then wait 15 seconds as it plays, and then turns off captions. So it's kind of like
if you're some sort of person who doesn't have captions on at all times, at least.
True, exactly. Which
is the right way to watch television and everything is just always have captions on. But, some people, they haven't learned that.
That's why, pretty much with the shortcut, if you're one of those people, you can just have it whenever you give the command, it'll turn captions off, and even light mode or reduce loud sounds, which could be good for accessibility. So it's actually super nice.
I'm anxious for them to add an option to do some sort of automations with directional control or like remote automations so that I don't mean remote as in away from, I mean remote as in the remote, because I will turn on, I don't want any emails about this. If you send me emails, then I'm going to have to explain, and I don't want to have to explain because it's a whole long thing. Dog TV. Yes, I have television for my dogs.
I love it.
There's a reason, and I'm not going into it. Anyway, with Dog TV, I have to launch the app, and then I have to go to the live stream for it, and then hit the middle button to select it, and then it plays. It'd be really nice if I could say, hey, Dog TV, and it would do those commands of go down and then hit this button as well. Yeah. So I don't know if that'll ever be added, but it'd be nice.
It can, there's a show remote control action, and so that can actually at least just show it on your phone. And so wherever you are, it can pull up the control so you don't have to grab the actual remote.
But I've been promised a future where these things just happen for me.
That's fair. I mean, that app, maybe they'll add shortcuts to the Apple TV officially. That's this is a way to at least get all the functionality now it's technically through the TV remote app on your phone. But that when you do open it on their phone, like the volume controls control like your receiver through HDMI CEC, and in general, the wake and sleep actions also turn on your TV and turn it off if that's supported. So it's actually a really robust set of actions. So yeah, I'll have like links to all that on my website as well as somewhere soon.
Sweet. Well, we'll have to keep a lookout for that.
Sure.
And up next, we're going to talk about something. I assume you joined the pre-order list as I did for the Steam. Now, careful. It's not the Stream Deck.
Yeah.
It's the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is a device that is trying to be a console that kind of has all the different consoles. has an option to play, whatever games you want to. As Leo Laporte is wont to remind all of us 1,000 times, runs a version of Linux. So that's great, I guess. I don't really know. But it can run Windows if you need it to. But more importantly, it's kind of an open platform that wants to give you the option to be portable and play the games that you want to play. And so if you've got Steam, then you could do this. And I think that part's really exciting. The battery life is kind of a joke, but outside of that, I'm pretty pumped about this thing. What about you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I did not pre-order it because I think this is one of those ones that, I'm not a Steam gamer, so I don't necessarily have like a whole catalog that I want to immediately play. And like you said, I think I want to see how this plays out first before like getting into it. But it's basically the promise of handheld gaming without some of the platform limitations that Nintendo tends to enforce, and then even maybe just like the style of games that something like Apple Arcade offers that are kind of a cheaper or like not the term in the industry is like AAA games where it's like Call of Duty or something like that. So this is kind of like what are like quote unquote PC games for handheld stuff. And then you can also install all sorts of alternate operating systems or app stores. So that's also an interesting entrant into that whole field. That's like Apple stuff is locked down and things like that. So I think this is super interesting, especially just like proving that you can do handheld AAA games. I guess, of course, maybe not for that long if the battery isn't that worth it, but having the dock and just the portability,
because
you could move between docks is probably something that people would end up doing.
For me, as a person who doesn't have, a powerful Windows gaming platform computer, I've got a Windows PC, but it's not a powerful one that's meant for gaming. This option of having one, it's purpose built for gaming, and so could in theory be the device that I would want to use. Because it was a $5 option to just basically reserve to pre-order. So chances are I might not get it. It's going to depend on whether I continue to be into gaming as I am right now. That's going to make all the difference. And if I am, then that will result in me wanting to buy it. Because I went for the middle option. I didn't want to pay the money for the full one. Yeah. I didn't want to pay the money I didn't want to get the like least expensive one because of the limitations with it. So I went for the middle one. That's when I reserved. So we'll see how I'm feeling in Q1 of 2022, which is when my pre-order availability would open.
That's kind of part of it too, is it's just like pre-ordering for a very long time in the future. I just don't feel any sort of urgency. Like I'm not going to be a reviewer that directly of gaming stuff like that. So, but I do think if you are into games now, I think getting what I would maybe consider like real games, for lack of maybe that's a gatekeeping term, but just like those AAA games, which are the kind of games that I've just always played, those are, in my opinion, the best kind. And so in theory, it'll work because it'll just be awesome. And
Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the game that I've been playing nonstop right now. That's the one that's got my attention, which I play through Amazon Luna. And it's incredible. I'm never going to be a first-person shooter person. That's not my style of game. But that Control game seems really interesting. There's Assassin's Creed. It's cool because you can switch between. There's the character's name that you play is Eivor, and there are lots of spoilers that could come out, so I'm not going to do any spoilers. Yeah. But the character that you play, their name is Eivor, and they have both male and female gender versions of the character.
Oh, nice.
And you can end up being one or the other throughout the game based on some spoilery stuff that I won't get into. So I was mostly playing as the female version of Eivor, and then something happened, and now I'm currently the male version of Eivor. It's really fascinating. But anyway, this game's really fun. There's so much to it. And so going around and exploring, that's kind of what I do. And then I get back to the story. It's funny, I had this realization of like, oh, right, if I would do more of these story missions, then I would get experience and loot a lot faster. Meanwhile, I'm like combing the map, looking for all of these little treasures and stuff. And I'm like, I could really use X, Y, or Z. And then I, go and finally complete a story mission. And then it's like, here's a bunch of experience. That's why I should be doing more of these story missions.
Yeah, totally. I think that's like, even just what you said is in the simplest way. I enjoy those kinds of games because of the depth and the like amount of investment they put into gameplay and controls. Mm-hmm. And that's usually what sets those games apart. It's not any sort of like, just because it's on the phone, it doesn't matter. It's like, I would play this if it was on my phone. It's all about the quality of the game more than just like what type of gamer you are. It's just like what kind, and it's usually been locked away in a console that's set up with a TV. I mean, this is still $500, so it's not nearly as accessible as mobile gaming or something like that. But just the fact that this is your first time playing Assassin's Creed is like, I love that. I love hearing that because now you are just experiencing that greatness, and that's kind of like only limited to these types of games. So that's what made me a gamer, was getting into this kind of stuff. So,
and I think
bet if you keep going, you will be like, you're going to get hooked.
This device sets up what the future of gaming is going to look like. Assassin's Creed, by way of Ubisoft, had just talked about their plans to turn Assassin's Creed into like a subscription-based thing where it's a massively multiplayer online game that, the world is constantly updated. So suddenly, your Steam Deck that you carry around with you is this gateway into the different worlds that you play in, be it Assassin's Creed universe or, I can't off the top of my head name some of the other ones because I don't know
Minecraft
them. But Minecraft, all of these different games where there are story elements to follow, but the game is kind of unending in a good way. And I think that this kind of mobile console that's also can be a locked-in console is really cool to give folks that option. So, more so than not, I really am into this idea. And then I'm curious, I just want to know how well it plays The Sims because I've got that in my Steam library, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we'll see. Nice. I think so. Does that make sense to Steam? Is Sims in Steam? Maybe that's an origin. So, yeah.
The Sims is everywhere. That's like the Netflix in smart TVs. It's like, if it doesn't play The Sims, what kind of gaming platform is it?
That's true. Yeah, it is. I just had to confirm because I remember downloading at one point something else. And then, now Sims 4 is available with EA's own subscription service, $5 a month. All right. Let us go forth to talk about something else. This is an important piece from Lifehacker. I'm begging you to use a VPN at hotels. Stop browsing on shared networks without a VPN and important security settings enabled, by Brendan Hesse. Frankly, this should be an all caps article, and everybody should be listening to it. It explains why we shout about this kind of thing. this kind of thing all the time. It explains why hotel Wi-Fi is sketchy, what a VPN does and how it helps keep you protected, and kind of what the point is for being able to do these. So ultimately, you know, when we're talking to folks on the show, I think a lot of folks out there are pretty well aware of these privacy protections that you need to do. But what's nice is having these kinds of articles that we can share with folks and say, hey, this is why you should do this. And I can help you, you know, get this figured out, how you get it set up, and what you need to do to keep your stuff safe. Because you may think it's okay to log into your bank account while you're on Wi-Fi provided by the hotel, but you could be running into some sort of issue where that's not the case. So good on Brendan Hesse for putting together this article. Did you have anything that you wanted to say in particular about it?
I just like the classic tip of the best strategy is to just not even use it and just use your cellular if you are there. But yeah, otherwise pretty good basic tips.
Yeah. And then if you are using your cellular provider, still use a VPN, because otherwise your cellular provider is tracking all of your activity across the internet. So you won't have the man in the middle issues and the, you know, public Wi-Fi, same kind of issues, but know that AT&T or Sprint, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, those folks, whomever you have, I don't know, Fannie Dooley, they all are tracking your internet access online.
I do want to revisit this also closer to when iOS 15 comes out, because I can even see the notification in my Mac menu bar right now that I have Private Relay active, which does hide your IP address and Safari browsing activity. But I'm curious, I'm just going to do more research too about if that's going to apply at all to HomeKit, or especially, what's the Eero setting for HomeKit? Secure router?
HomeKit secure router, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious how this plays into that. So I will look into it and report back.
It says it's time for Alexa, the Google Assistant, and Siri to swear. So this is a Wired article that says that, you know what? I think it's okay if the vocal assistants, I suppose that's not incorrect, if voice assistants swear. Just last night, I was talking to my partner, and a screen came up on the Echo Show, and it said, it was, you know, on the left it had news or whatever, and on the right it said Akinator. And I'm sure you, Matthew Cassinelli, remember Akinator. And I imagine, I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin remembers Akinator too, but my partner's a little bit younger. And so I said, do you know what Akinator is? Have you heard of Akinator? No. And so I wanted to show him what Akinator was, which for us, we would go to the website and we would think of a person, and then it would ask us questions and we'd answer it yes or no, or maybe, I think were sometimes the options. And then it would eventually guess the person that you were thinking of. And it would be really good at doing that. Sometimes it was kind of shocking. And so I thought, I want you to see how good this is at guessing the person. And so he picked the character Anya Jenkins from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and was kind of smug, like there's no way. And Akinator ended up guessing it. But during the conversation, there was one point where he answered a little bit quieter than normal, and Alexa thought that he was whispering. And so Alexa responded and said, I think you were just whispering. If that's the case, I will start whispering back to you. If at any time you want to stop whispering, just say, stop whispering. And so from that point on, it was going on whispering in response. And what this would normally be used for is a situation where you wanted Alexa to do something and you didn't want to wake somebody up, or you didn't want to disturb something. And so you could whisper to Alexa and say, you know, what's the weather like tomorrow? And then it would whisper back quietly to you. And so, the piece here is talking about how it would be a good thing if these assistants started to behave similarly to how we do, and it could learn your behavior and then start to model some of that behavior back. So if I talk to Alexa, which I never would, but if I were to talk to Alexa and say some curse words, then maybe it would say some back. I feel very uncomfortable cursing at voice assistants. But I've noticed that most people do not feel very uncomfortable about doing so and are happy to say bad things to voice assistants. So anyway, I suppose I can see the argument for this.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting, I can tell that this is kind of like their angle to the story where they're talking about the history and how people do tend to swear at their assistants. And especially, I think, I just thought of like internationally, I feel like some countries might stereotypically swear more than others or something, or using the versions of their words. And even one was going, like the story goes back into how the guy who recorded for the language for speak and spell, like they refused to have it say swear words and things like that. So there's definitely the history, or how like when Siri first launched, there was a bunch of things where it'd be like, it's like, where can, what was the one? Like, where do you bury a dead body? And they're like, here's a morgue, or here's a metal factory nearby or something like that. And it would actually take you there. So those ones were pretty funny, but I thought it was especially just like if you could set it that way, or I guess, you know what, this article really should have interviewed the guy who made Carrot Weather, because that's the one that's notorious for, you can actually program in levels of personality into the weather app. And so it is, if you ask Siri for the weather, it could be like, oh, it's raining or something like that as you go outside. So I didn't actually swear, just so you know. What is it? Bleep at 221.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I thought it was an interesting take, and especially if you could maybe set it like regionally or something like that, and it would respond with, I think, like the level that you do. Or I guess the main issue that at least Google was talking about is they assume these are used in communal environments, so it couldn't just have Siri start swearing back to you, or Google Assistant start swearing back to you. But maybe if there was some way you could, if your family didn't have any children in it or something like that, you could turn on the setting. Yeah,
that's true. If you've got kids that, you know, you don't want to hear curse words, then you would need to have some options. But I think that the larger point here, maybe it's not about curse words in particular, but it's just about the voice assistants getting to know a little bit more about us in general, and kind of modeling behavior, because up to a certain point, that makes you more trusting of a thing. If you don't feel like you have to sort of code switch in order to communicate with it.
Yeah, totally. Especially like if it could just detect when you're like mad at it for being too like verbose or something. Like that's the one where it's like, oh, I turned on the lights. Sorry, one of the lights isn't turned on, so I'm going to keep talking back to you. And I'll like shout back at the thing. And it's like, if it could just be like, oh, sorry, like I'll chill out for a couple of days or something like that. That would be nice.
It'd be funny. It's like,
maybe I'm the one that needs to chill.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to let you cool it for a little while.
Yeah, she's like, you need to calm down. I'll tell you to calm down.
Yeah, that reminds me of that.
Unplug the machine.
Quinta B. Johnson video where, Quinta B. Johnson, Quinta Brunson video where the person she's on a date with tells her to calm down.
Oh, to relax.
Yeah. Oh yeah, relax. Yeah, that's it. I'll put a link in the show notes because it's hilarious. And oh God, it's a huge giant Google link. Why are you doing this to me, Google? Anyway, we can move on and take a quick break so that I can tell you about our sponsor for today. It's Molecule. It's time to breathe in and breathe out, and breathe in well, because Molecule is here to save the day. I got to tell you, things are really getting smoky, not just here in California, but all around the United States. Seeing some hazy clouds, and I've noticed my allergies being a little bit more intense as of late. And you know, there's a way you can deal with that. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. It's not just an innovation on existing technology, but a scientific breakthrough in air purification. Did you know indoor air can be up to 5 times worse than outdoor air? That's according to the EPA. Molecule's core technology, PICO, or photoelectrochemical oxidation, it actually destroys harmful pollutants in the air, like viruses, bacteria, mold, and chemicals, instead of just collecting them on filters. Molecule air purifiers are designed to help protect homes, businesses, and medical spaces, so you know they're destroying pollutants and providing clean air. Molecule's PICO technology meets the performance requirements in FDA guidance for use in helping reduce the risk of exposure to the COVID-19 virus in healthcare settings. While it's important to maintain other good preventative practices, this, of course, is an extra layer of virus protection for your spaces. Molecule's technology and filtration systems, they've been tested and verified by independent third-party labs. Molecule now offers its breakthrough PICO technology across a range of products, providing a clean air solution for a range of environments. Cleaner air is just better. Dirty indoor air can contain allergens like dust and pollen and pet dander, as well as other pollutants like VOCs, bacteria, mold, and viruses. Molecule air purifiers don't just capture these offenders, they destroy them. The Molecule Air Mini is designed for rooms up to 250 square feet, the Molecule Air for larger rooms up to 600 square feet, and the Molecule Air Pro for rooms up to 1,000 square feet. They also have the Molecule Air Mini Plus, which helps protect small rooms with a particle sensor, and Auto Protect mode, which adjusts fan speed based on the sensor. And the Molecule Air Pro RX, which received 510K Class 2 medical device clearance for medical purposes to destroy bacteria and viruses in the air. We here at TWiT have several molecules dancing around that we use in the studio and out in the rest of the building to keep the air clean here, and particularly great whenever the fire gets to be a problem. So it's nice looking around and seeing those beautifully designed machines doing their work to keep our air clean. For a limited time, you can save up to $120 on Molecule air purifiers just by visiting molecule.com. That's MOLEKULE.com and using the promo code STT120. You can enjoy free shipping and a 30-day at-home trial on your order. That's code STT120 at molecule.com. Our thanks to Molecule for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. All right. Folks who have a Google Workspace account, that's the kind of pay for it version of Google Drive and with all of those documents, and you might have domains. There's all sorts of stuff built into Google Workspace, but you can now use the assistant on the Nest Hub along with your Google Workspace account. So it used to be that you couldn't log in with a Google Workspace's account and be able to use the Google Assistant. Google has updated that so that you can. I think this is more important for folks who maybe have personal accounts, because like my me@Mikah.co account, if I used that for everything, I wouldn't have been able to use the Google Assistant with that. I would have had to use my personal Gmail that I set up long before I ever got a Google Workspace account. So I imagine for you, this is also a good thing, right?
Yeah, this is like, I thought this was the dumbest thing that's ever been a part of Google Assistant, that your Google account wouldn't work with it if you used the Google more than the average person. So I just didn't understand how people, I don't know, this before I started the show, especially, and I'd say more in the Apple camp, I was like, this is just absurd that you could have this. It's like, oh, when are my work meetings? Oh, sorry, that doesn't work. Like, what? I still think it's absurd that it's taken this long, that you just can't. I don't know. I thought that was the entire point of an assistant, was to have it help you with your personal life and your work life, not one or the other. And so I think I put in the doc a giant finally, because this is completely necessary. I had a whole system where I was moving my calendar events from one calendar to the other using shortcuts, of course, just to be able to see them on my display. So I actually am looking forward to being able to see when this podcast will now show up on my Nest Hub instead of just because it's through my work email instead of my personal one. So this is
hashtag finally.
Yeah. I still don't get how it took till now to happen.
What? People would want to do that? I never.
Yeah, exactly. But there's also, I haven't seen how this exactly works, but it looks like now when you're using Google Meet, you can also use the Nest, I guess it's only the Nest Hub Max, as the second screen for your Google Meet thing. So I was always wondering what it was like to have to join from a Nest Hub in your meeting versus being in the meeting on your computer and that whole differentiation. But now it basically looks like it'll just kind of send a signal over to the Nest Hub Max, and then you can join there. And then it'll just kind of be like the side companion to what you're doing on your screen. So I think this is super cool. This is, I think, an expansion of just kind of that smart display capability, as this almost seems like Chromecast for just the Meet calls as opposed to your entire display or something like that. But I think it's super cool. Like almost like Sidecar for Mac, but with the Nest Hub. So I think it's a pretty good, solid update. And I feel sometimes I'm just very surprised that this kind of stuff happens without any fanfare whatsoever. That it's just like, oh, this thing that was plaguing Google Assistant for years is now fixed. And it's just like they put up a random blog post about it and don't mention it at other places where I feel like this is like a major usability thing for people. So our long national nightmare is over.
Indeed. All right. This is again in like, nobody thought about this. That's kind of odd. Google TV has an update out that adds the option to manually clear out the continue watching row. Yes, folks, it was enough of a thing that they wrote an article about it. I don't know about you, but if I don't want something in my continue watching row on my Apple TV, it's very nice to be able to say remove from continue watching or remove from recently watched or what have you.
Mm-hmm. The up next.
Yeah, I don't want it there anymore, so it needs to go away. This you just had no option before.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned this, just because exactly that. There's some services. Who does it? Is it HBO? I think is one that, even though that the TV app you can remove from up next, it'll still always show it in there. I think Netflix does the same thing. So, and it's one of the, I guess, do you also have this problem on Netflix? I've been watching I Think You Should Leave, and then it also happened to me with Queer Eye, where it'll put the second season above the first season so that you watch like the second season through and then it starts in the first season again.
Oh yeah.
It just makes no sense whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, sometimes this kind of thing is like, I'll be in a show going into the episode, going to the end, just so that it thinks that I finished this episode again, instead of being the recently watched.
And that's the thing, is we shouldn't have to redo that whole jumping through hoops to make it work how one would expect is really obnoxious. And then as Reverb Mike in the chat is pointing out, I don't like how, and Reverb might be talking about what you're talking about, but another thing that I don't like is that sometimes Netflix will randomly move your continue watching row somewhere else. And so you're like scrolling through, and instead of continue watching, it's because you watched this and now popular on Netflix or what have you, all these different rows that are, and you're going, where's my continue? I just want to go back to what I was watching before. Doesn't make any sense.
It happens to all of us. So we'll all just make it through. Jumping through hoops, that is just like the definition of my life right now with beta devices. Like,
oh my God.
I have meta strategies for like approaching how to do like just very simple tasks, like showing that focus mode that I've been talking about. I have to like turn it on and off and on and off like 5 times to get it to stick and things like that. But I know how to get it
broken right now for me. So it used to be, I had to completely go in and reset up all of my Philips Hue lights because any of the remotes that I use to turn on and off the lights stopped working. And then the button that I had in my office that I've talked about before, where one press turns all the lights on for my studio, 2 lights turns it all off, and then the third one, or when you press and hold, it turns on just some night lights. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff stopped working. And what's wild is that if you have the home app open, it shows the button tile bouncing, meaning that it recognizes that you're doing the thing, but it won't do the thing.
It doesn't do anything.
And what was annoying is that my partner had just gotten used to starting to use the remote in the living room to turn on and off the lights, and then it stopped working. And I'm like, no. So what I've had to do, because HomeKit's just broken, and again, this is my fault, I'm doing beta stuff, is all of the automations for that, if you do them on the Philips Hue side, then it just works because it's just doing it through Philips Hue's bridge. So I had to completely reset up that remote so that it just talked with the Zigbee hub for Philips Hue instead of going through HomeKit, which worked before, but now doesn't work. So it was this whole process of resetting everything. It was obnoxious, and yet it still doesn't. The rest of it won't work. So Philips Hue works because it's got it all figured out. But the button that I have in my office right now, no, because it's through HomeKit, and something is broken. And I even I went as far as to set it all up on the iPad that I have that hasn't been upgraded to iOS 15, thinking that would fix it. But I think because this phone still has a connection to my home, it's the thing that's messing things up. So I don't know what to do.
Your flashlight is on, by the way. I can see it on the video.
I wonder how long that's been on.
I think you just turned it on when you picked it up.
I don't even know how. Oh, that's what. Okay, yeah. I was like, I know I don't have the. I don't like using back tap, so I don't know how that turned on.
I mean, I definitely have a Logitech Pop in my bedroom that just doesn't work, and that's supposed to turn off the sound machine and the lights.
Oh, Logitech Pop is an offender.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't think anyone should ever get that. Chickenhead21 asks if you ever got your big red button working.
I didn't actually. I haven't had a chance to meet up with the guy because I was just at a weird schedule this week. I was off on Tuesday.
I'm afraid to hit the table too hard because I don't want anything to break. But that was my frustration. Did you know that Fibaro, Fibaro, they make a HomeKit big red button.
Ooh.
It's called
HomeKit big red button.
It's
like the button.
It's called the button. And it comes in white.
Send it to
me. And it comes in red, and it's $50.
It says it has Siri support, which sounds like it has shortcuts, but not.
No, it definitely works with Apple HomeKit. Okay, if you go on the Amazon page, it shows works with Apple HomeKit on the box. And I remember Fibaro sending me a message a long time ago trying to get me to, or mentioning this product. I'm sending it now in the Slack so you can check it out. But yeah, $50. Oh, they only have 2 left in stock. So if you want it, you need to hop on it.
Better act now.
Act now. Devices are going fast. It looks like
it's white. It's not red.
I sent you the wrong one then.
Oh, okay.
Because there's definitely a red one.
2.5 stars isn't the best rating.
No, I wonder what
maybe I'll get
uses,
a review unit.
If it's Wi-Fi or if it's Bluetooth. Yeah, we'd have to see.
Just be those people who are like, "Are you supporting Matter?" And they're like, "No."
Oh, there are 2
we
different.
barely even make this.
There are 2 different versions of it. That's why there's one that's not HomeKit enabled and one that is. So I wonder if
this one, the color works with HomeKit, so I assume that's the right one. I love Amazon pages like that.
Interestingly, Amazon.
It's $135.
Yeah, I guess Apple no longer sells it, so maybe it's not a good idea to buy it. They sell some other Fibaro stuff, but they don't sell the button on their site. So I bet Fibaro is kind of like, that's an old thing. We don't do that really anymore. So maybe don't buy the big red button.
Dang it.
Sorry. You'll have to figure out a different button.
I mean,
the one that you have.
Don't worry. I'll tease it a little bit, but I have the Apple script for shortcuts working so that I can trigger my shortcuts through anything else that can run Apple script. So I am definitely going to be remapping that button to run my shortcuts for sure.
We'll see.
I got to get some sort of system where it's double tap is down and then triple tap is back or something. So I can just be have my whole Morse code system for running shortcuts on the Mac. That's just extremely obnoxious.
Google is updating its Maps app with an Insights and Trips tab. This is meant to help you figure out more about taking trips and particularly with transit information. It says, to help public transit riders navigate new normals, Google is expanding crowdedness predictions to over 10,000 transit agencies in 100 countries. So you can decide, do I want to hop on that one or do I want to wait and get on another one? And then you can also use the trends and timeline feature to see how much time you're spending at different places and drill down to see all the places you visited. So I guess this is, for folks who really like that kind of data, this is helpful in getting that kind of data to know where you've gone. Basically, it's just showing you what Google already knows about you. It's giving you the ability to check that information out.
I think that always makes sense. That's always frustrating when exactly that thing you just mentioned is this computer program has all of this information about me, but it's just not making it available in a way that I could actually utilize. So might as well do that a little bit better. They're saying that in New York, especially, things like down to the transit car level data is possible so that you can really see, like, is this a crowded train or not? Because that could definitely make you decide whether or not to skip it, especially nowadays as things are getting a little bit more dangerous again. So I've been reconsidering some public access or areas like that. And even just like you can submit how crowded it is for your current train to help other people too, which is nice.
Until everybody gangs up together and says, the train is so crowded, so that they can have that's totally like a meta story that you can see in the future. It's gaming
like
the system.
Everybody who's on the train in the morning knows to do that.
These 15 gig workers decided to scam the system while they crushed Soylent and wore the glucose monitors on the back of their arms. People are mad about people using constant glucose monitors now. Because anyway, no. Save it, Mikah.
We'll get to that when it potentially comes to the Apple Watch, which is the rumor. So
yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next thing.
Sure.
Volley's Magic Word is a voice-based puzzle game on the Google Assistant. Is it like other games on voice assistants and that they are boring after playing them one time?
Probably. I thought this was, I'm always just interested when I come across some of these, especially because this is just sort of tied into the Amazon or the ALEXA live conversation that we're about to have in a couple of minutes, just in terms of what people can do in gaming. But it does seem pretty basic. Are you a gamer snob now, Mikah? Is that
No, I'm a...
You're like, this doesn't play as many games as my Steam Deck.
Oh my God. No, I don't want to be that person. I've always been unimpressed with the gaming options on these devices.
It's pretty...
Past
yeah.
one go. That's what my problem with it is, that they don't seem to have long-term use. A lot of these are so gimmicky. You download them, you play them once, and you're like, okay, I get it. I don't really need to do this again.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same company that made like a song quiz, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, and Popcorn Tycoon. I don't know what that is, but I think that's why, basically, just spoiler, is that Amazon is adding some shared game things across. Like you could play Jeopardy on your device, and then I could play against you and things like that. So I think that's going to be an expansion for this kind of stuff too. So I just thought it's always interesting to see. Especially another part about the Amazon story that we'll get to too is just like the developer story for making apps and games for these smart assistants, and how does anybody make any money off of this stuff?
Right.
So I think that's always, games at least can be a little bit more practical. Like maybe you do just play with your kid, just play with it during lunch every once in a while, and then it was worth a couple of bucks. But I think it's just interesting to see these categories expand.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, some quick Apple pieces before we move on. iOS 14.7, tvOS 14.7, and watchOS 7.6 came out with some updates. And one of those updates that folks might be interested in is that ECG, electrocardiogram support, is coming to more countries. So folks who maybe have been waiting for their Apple Watch to be able to measure their heart via ECG can look forward to having that available to them. Well,
there's like 30 regions, so we're not going to list them all.
We won't list all of them out. But you could check if you are included. And then iOS 15 and watchOS 8, which are the next versions of iOS and watchOS, which will come out later this fall. They both have a feature that I think a lot of folks are going to be very pleased about. It's been the case that every time there's a new iOS update or I guess for some people watchOS update, they go to install it and they don't have room on their devices. And so they're going and deleting photos, they're removing apps, they're trying to get all of the stuff off that they possibly can, or they do what I suggest, which is to plug it into a computer if they have it and installing the update that way. But not everybody has that option. And so Apple is has worked on improving this by offering the option to, despite the fact that you might not have space, still do these updates. They do as much as give you, I believe is it 2 weeks or is it 2 months? I can't remember, but a certain grace period where they will give you more storage in iCloud that you can use to kind of hold things while you do the update. And then you can, take everything back after the update's completed. And just so you have enough time to kind of get everything settled in and migrated over, they give you a little bit more free space or free time to make that all happen. So this is good for usability for anybody upgrading to the latest thing. We don't have that kind of like, I want to update, but I don't want to have to delete stuff. Now there's less of a reason to not update, which only increases Apple's install numbers over time, which is something that they're always very proud of.
Well, especially there was a story a couple of months ago where I think the Apple Watch Series 3 now couldn't actually update to the new version at all without being plugged in. Or I think I don't remember exactly how it works for the watch in order to get it through. I guess you probably download it through your phone.
You had to reset the Apple Watch. So basically you flashed the memory so that it was just iOS on there and nothing else. And then you could update it before you started the setup process. So people were reasonably upset that all of their stuff was potentially gone. If they didn't, do the right backups to iCloud, if they didn't have enough space on iCloud to do those backups.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other thing with the iOS 14.7 is there's multiple timers on the HomePod, which hasn't been possible before. Although it's still kind of weird and buried and doesn't show in the Home app anywhere other than in that view. So that's kind of a weird limitation. And then I think just going off of honestly, our sponsor read for Molecule, just that there's air quality information now in Canada, France, Netherlands, South Korea, and Spain, which is increasingly important. So that's good to know.
All right. Up next, we're going to talk about ALEXA Live 2021. It's time to talk about ALEXA Live 2021. Amazon held its event yesterday, ALEXA Live 2021, which is its developer event for talking or for all things developers can do to make use of the different new skills and tools and features that are available to Amazon's voice assistant. I was really pleased to be joined by Carolina Milanese earlier today on Tech News Weekly, who told us all about the event. So you can check out her take on the event there. But Matthew and I, of course, will be talking about it here as well on Smart Tech Today, given the nature of this smart assistant. Where do we want to start?
I took notes on the whole event, and so I have that linked for you, and we could show some of it on screen because it is like a digital document.
Nice.
I just thought it was very interesting following through, especially just because it's such a developer-focused event, and just kind of not being super in tune with is this the first one of these they've done, or they've done them? I noticed some of the language from some of the execs. It just seemed like they were kind of making up for not like giving enough attention to developers, because it does kind of make sense that skills were so huge for a while, and had it, especially in the whole Silicon Valley scene, was like voice being the major thing was massive a few years ago, and then just trends in terms of what companies invest in move on. And so especially if they don't necessarily prove out as much, or as like, particularly for big tech, incredibly profitable is what they're going for. And so they're all on like NFTs or the creator economy now, and that's a whole other thing. But it was just interesting to see like this. There is always a certain amount of like developers invest in ecosystem, but sometimes it does take 5 years for it to play out really in a deep and integrated way. And so how do you survive as a company for 5 years in that environment is always a challenge. And so it's always up to companies. Like I always see so much more through Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, but this is kind of the same thing for Amazon's developer community. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before I like talk through some of it? Or
no, I think so. Amazon's done a good job for developers subscribed to their channels. They get a lot of information that way. That's how I get a lot of information from Amazon. They regularly update those documents and talk about new things that are rolling out. But I will say that, yeah, the events that Amazon has tended to hold have been focused on new hardware and similar devices. And so this event, I can see how there was a little bit of catch up to do. And I think a more focused event that's just solely about developers taking advantage of these tools. So this was definitely not, a consumer event where you're going to see a whole lot of stuff play out that you will buy or what have you. But I think for anybody who's interested about what ALEXA can provide, this event did give us some tidbits and some sneak peeks at some of the stuff that's going to be happening. So yeah, let's go into your notes. Your craft document notes.
Yes, I like that up a lot. But I think, especially for me, I am just a independent creator in the voice space and on like the cutting edge of what shortcuts and Siri can do. And so I think it was just very interesting to see like what the industry thinks of what they were calling ambient computing the whole time. So that is definitely at least Amazon's brand for what we're going through. And so it's kind of like a whole simple in it there. Like I just took notes on like, they're like, it's indispensable to you. And it's so integrated that you barely notice it. And the simplicity of going straight from out of their lab into people's daily lives. And just the contrast with me of like, I'm building all of these shortcuts myself as opposed to developers building they provide the actions, but they don't provide the whole experience. And so I'm just like, I will compare it a little bit to what I'm learning about shortcuts too. But I think, a lot of what they were saying is that their vision for ALEXA is to refine and accelerate what's there and make it ubiquitous and multimodal and just smarter overall. So those are kind of like some of the speed aspects, being everywhere while also working in those contexts, and then just actually doing stuff that is useful to you and not just interesting or something like that. I missed a part about the send to phone at the beginning, but I do think that was an interesting aspect that they were covering that I've criticized in the past, where as much as Amazon is like ubiquitous in the home, if they're not on their phone, it doesn't make a big difference if you're out in the world and don't have it with you. But we've seen on the show them adding features like just when you open the app, you can speak to it and make your requests automatically without having to tap the button or anything like that. So it could kind of be a ambient computing experience that way if it's just like sitting on your charger. But I think here, let me see. What was some of the parts they were just talking a lot about how like through ambient computing, you don't have to learn it. Even some of what you're saying about adapting to your tone and correcting mistakes, and she can kind of figure out how to respond appropriately. They had a good joke in there about when it responds chipper and you're pissed off at it. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
They can detect that through the machine learning algorithms.
And all of the data they've gathered from the Halo band.
Oh yeah.
I'm kidding.
I mean, some of that was like, they were specifically mentioning about how the customers can teach it too, is like, if you requested something that it didn't know, instead of just failing, it could say, I don't know what that is. Can you teach me? And then you could program it that way. So I was like, I totally would love that.
I'm so down for that.
Yeah, exactly. That was good.
I would love to teach you. Yes.
The automatic defect correction was, I think, something that's like, if you messed up just part of it, that was something that the assistant herself could do, but then now that's passed along to app developers. So I think just to like put a pin in that point is that I think a big thing that they're doing is bringing stuff that was previously just part of the assistant and that they've rolled out and making it available for skills so that those experiences are just as good as the assistant themselves. And one thing I liked was there in ambient computing was concept to speech, where instead of just like literally what you said and converting that into text, it was trying to get at the high level idea of what you were doing, store that, and then convey it in different ways depending on the context that you're running it from. So
did they have an example of that?
I don't think they had one specifically for that, or I just didn't necessarily write it down, but it's kind of just like when you're trying to get a food recipe, maybe like something vegetarian, it can maintain that context versus just like the words itself that you said. And especially enable developers to take that and continue on, especially across skills and things like that.
Yeah, one of the cool things that I saw with Amazon was, even before this event, I remember reading about some updates to its built-in knowledge graph and how developers were going to be able to take advantage of that.
Yep.
That is one of the coolest things, is that instead of a developer kind of having to program their own database for their own app, more people can make skills that just make use of the tools that Amazon already has at its disposal. And so you end up being able to let the people focus on the experience of it instead of also having to program with the data and find the data and potentially have to spend money on the data. So I thought this was a really helpful way to let more people make skills for the Echo. And
was that
a couple of times been something that I've thought about doing myself. I don't know what skill I would do, but something.
Yeah. Was that ALEXA conversations? Because I don't have all the exact definition. I think so. That was the next section.
I'm sorry.
They're expanding that. No, that was perfect. I think they also said that people have just, a big thing that they were saying is just that a lot of areas doubled in the last year, which is also, it's hard to tell exactly what that means when they say that, because even Amazon is notorious for, or Jeff Bezos especially was notorious for making charts that didn't have scales. So it always looked fancy, but like, you're like, what was that? So I can't tell if that just means that it's being used twice as often because people were just at home. And I definitely took some more time to experiment with some of the stuff just because I was at home. But yeah, like the catalog search and everything, that is, I think, particularly useful, and it's expanding internationally more too. So a big thing I did see that I think stuff that used to be US only is now expanding out, which is just big for Amazon's overall strategy. They also talked a lot about proactive stuff, which they were saying 1 in 4 actions in an Amazon smart home isn't initiated by the person, but it's initiated by ALEXA herself through things like guard or routines or hunches.
Yeah, I saw this.
Which I thought was super cool. So it's kind of like just basically automations or just kind of triggers through your sensors and things like that, the smart home is doing a lot for you also, which I think is pretty interesting compared to, I think, people who are in the Echo ecosystem, probably are more voice-based, whereas I just think of you not liking to use your voice a whole lot, and that's just where these devices excel the most. So to see that at least a quarter of it is done proactively is pretty interesting. But they're adding all sorts of triggers and proactive suggestions too, so that like if you locked your house, maybe it could do something specific in response as you leave, or like your morning commute, and if you're driving or walking or something like that. And a good one that they had was, although you told me that you were laughing at anybody using the Echo Auto, but if you are like driving around, you could just speak to the Whole Foods connection in it that like, oh, I need to check in. And then it's like, I'm in this spot and stuff like that. So what do you think of that? You're like, nobody
I just
actually do that, but
I've not heard of anybody actually using the Echo Auto. That's the only thing. I think that the feature, maybe if the ALEXA app that I have in my phone, if I've given it my location, if it can do that Whole Foods thing, I think that's great. And I would definitely make use of that. And I think that it would get more use that way. I just was skeptical about people using the Echo Auto, as I've not seen, like there were hardly any reviews of the Echo Auto when it first came out. And I've just not seen any talk about it since then, because it's not enough of a thing on its own. It's like, it's sort of like plugging in a speakerphone into your car.
Yeah.
It's using all of the processing from your phone anyway. And so I've already got a voice assistant built into my phone. I don't need to also have it this way. So that was my big thing about ALEXA, is that, or this Echo Auto rather, is that it seemed kind of pointless if I've already got an assistant. But I guess if Amazon adds enough of these kinds of features, then suddenly there becomes more of a reason to have this stuck in my car. I just right now, I haven't really seen anybody hyping it at all since it came out, and I have not heard of anyone even using it.
I'm curious, I'll get to this in a second too, but what this kind of thing means in the world of Matter and cross assistant uses of smart home and through, I don't know what you call it in the car, smart car, that's not right, but technology, and just like how those could affect each other, because like I might not want the Echo Auto, but I could use ALEXA in the car through Siri or something. I'm not sure. Some other stuff that they were just talking about, I think these are probably more just for the developers, but about like designing specific types of experiences. And so they broke it into like creating delight, discovery, engagement, and monetization. Like delightful stuff is just about entertainment. And so most people do use their smart speakers for music, radio, and podcasts. And a lot more, they were kind of just noticing an increase in engagement from just turning something on to actually being engaged with it. And this is also like, I got a little bit of corporate speak vibe there, where they were like, oh, like people are want these interactive experiences. But I also thought the one that was really cool is that iHeartRadio DJs can take requests through Amazon Echoes in the future. So you could be listening to like your local station. I think that's the main way that it works, because they're regional. And so they can basically say like, do you want to put a song request or a dedication out to somebody? And you can just say to your Echo, like, send this in for, I'll play Beyonce for Mikah. And then you could hear it go on the radio.
Aren't all of those iHeartRadio DJs versions of ALEXA anyway? Like, aren't none of them real? I'm pretty sure they're all just robot voices anyway.
Well, now it can be your voice also.
Yeah, I guess.
Or I don't know if it'll actually take your audio.
I saw that and I thought that was kind of cool, the music request thing. Carolina Milanese was also incredibly skeptical, as I was, of the social network for artists that Amazon is working on.
Spotlight.
Yeah, Artist Spotlight. It's one of those things where it's only the artists that Amazon has tapped to, like, please work on us with this. Let's make this awesome. And then
who's the random lady that they picked?
Yeah. And then after like that, nobody does it. And many people don't go and look at it. So I'm skeptical of that one. And I felt like, since we're doing this thing, we might as well do this thing.
Yeah.
But I agree that music song request thing for people who listen to the radio, which I guess still happens, is something that people like.
Yeah, it's like, I just thought it's one of those things where like, why couldn't you do this through technology nowadays? It's like, yeah, now it's possible. And the artist spotlight thing is just kind of like, you got to do it in the industry in order to just be able to feature people. Or I'm sure I think a big thing that they were talking about is just the Echo shows and putting cards onto the display. So like it'll show that artist spotlight and things like that. They're doing more like food skill stuff. So through things like Yelp, you can, if you're ordering a pizza, it could like tell you about a discount and just have a better experience through the screen kind of setups, which I think it would be nice. It's like all pretty basic right now. There's interesting account linking stuff, which maybe, I don't remember, maybe Carolina, I saw her tweets all about this.
Same.
So I was super interested. But just like if you have your information is in your Echo account. And so when you sign up for something through a skill, it won't be like go into the app and sign in, create an account. You can just use your email and phone number from there. So like if you actually could set up an account straight through this, that sounds really nice. Mm-hmm. Just like actually use your voice, not pull out your phone. I always found that very silly. And some other stuff of just like, if it can detect that there's a smart printer on your network that could work with Amazon or the Echo, it can like, first of all, just suggest that, and then even go in and figure out how much ink you need and then order it through Amazon. And that's always when you're watching the keynote, I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
Like there's the part where you can order stuff from Amazon, and that's like
they're talking.
They did 90% of this.
They're talking mostly about a feature that already exists, and I think they just wanted to highlight it because it is a really nice feature, given how it just works. I have that set up for my printer at home, and so I could show it to on the show. I could talk about it, but when I went through it, I found it rather difficult to figure out what buttons I needed to press to not do the automatically order ink thing. I had to figure out what it was. I think I had to go ahead and agree to it during setup, and then after it was done, I had to go into the settings and disable the part where it would automatically order ink cartridges. And then the other thing about it is it's too good at its job. And so because I have an Echo Dot here in the studio, it has picked up in my ALEXA app, even if I'm at home, a couple of the printers that are here on the network at the studio. And so then they show up in my list. I'm like, I don't care about those. Make them go away. So that part, like, I'm impressed, but then I'm also annoyed that that's going on. It's like, get that out of, I'd like some more control over that, because right now it just feels kind of overreaching almost. But end of the day, pretty cool feature. And I think that it's with the different networking tools that Amazon has made available to kind of make devices just interoperate without you having to do a lot extra is kind of nice. Because if I do the search for devices button, it finds my partner's Xbox One on the network. It has, again, my printer at home. It's got two printers here in the studio. It's got all of the stuff that's connected via Ziggy. All of that's available just from doing a search of the network. So it's pretty good at that. And then it'll pop up the necessary skills for those things.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see some other stuff. They've got smarter safety for what they're calling detectors. So like if you have carbon monoxide sensors, those kind of things can pass information to guard. Oh no, I said it. I tried to go the whole thing. And then they're doing their whole Find My Network with kind of the tiles style setup, which is good. So that's just kind of going to be the universal thing we can expect from all of these kind of different networks now. Some discovery and engagement stuff for skills. I think this is a little bit developer-y, but it's still, I think, relevant for users because definitely, I mean, the Echo Show was a big one where they can have little cards that show up that's just like, try this app out. Or they're calling natural voice invocation, where you can basically, if you are just like, do my horoscope app, it can figure out, oh, you used this one in the past. Do you want to use the same thing instead of using the exact phrase every single time? or if you've just never used one, it can make recommendations for you, which is good. So it's not like that just battle over phrases seems a little bit more user friendly. It's just like, you want this type of app, you don't need to have the exact phrase for that one. And then they do have quick links for skills. And so those now, I think they can also do the quick links for the custom tasks that they want to do in routines. So actually executing one step of the skill, this is pretty much like actions and shortcuts in routines in the same way. But developers can just link people to that specifically. So it's like you can share a shortcut in the simplest term through for Amazon Echo now, which is really great. That actually is like the biggest thing, is just linking people to doing the thing, and then click it, and then they just get it, try it for the first time for real. And then there's more like in-skill purchasing details, but also I think this is the first time is paid skills. So like paid apps up front instead of it being free. They're like, for more premium experiences, it probably does make sense to have this possible. So that's actually like, it seems like a pretty big deal just to be able to sell something and make the money right off and not have that whole conversion level drop off that tends to happen. And then, yeah, there's all like, you can also, there's ALEXA shopping actions and Amazon Associates. So you can literally make whole shopping experiences. Part of it was, their example was that if you were a board game company, you could make a game that basically demos what it's like, and then they could order the game directly. And then it is like, if you are featuring products in your skill, people can buy them directly from Amazon, and you can make 10% off of it. So
nice.
I was like, hey, that's actually like, even though that is just the pure Amazon play, Amazon Associates is, I am a YouTuber, that definitely drives a major portion of my industry. And so I can see that being super useful to people. And just like, it makes sense if you are interacting with something and you are like, oh, that sounds like it would be logical to get, you could just buy it right away, and it's integrated through the whole system.
Cool. And
then I'll just go over real quick some developer things of just, I think the biggest problem with skills is that it takes a ton to build. Even though you were saying that they have like tons of updates, sometimes that can actually just be worse, because it's tons of small things that end up being hard to put together. And it's just hard to learn, like, what should I be doing versus what's possible. So they have a whole skill design guide that can take you from the beginning this. So like, I'm going to read this voice first design methodology. That's where I was like, this is exactly what I do. And so like, I'm going to take this and build shortcuts using their concepts, at least, or just kind of how they think about people should interact with this stuff, especially because I've thought about how I write my names of my shortcuts, because that's what people use as the trigger phrase.
Right.
And so
didn't it used to be they had like a separate option for the phrasing and for the name, the title?
Yes, which was more clear. They did up in iOS 15. It says right in the title bar, like, hey, blank, comma, the name of the shortcut. So it's very clear that that's the trigger phrase now. I
kind of like it when it's separate. It was easier to keep track of.
Yeah, but then you had to set up one. I have 900 shortcuts, so I'm not going to sit there and put, especially just so you had to physically record it, was just like, if you were anywhere that you didn't want to say something out loud, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Oh, that's right, because you had to say it. I forgot. You couldn't just type it in. You had to say it. That makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, there's like a bunch of stuff. Yeah, their knowledge graph is the one I think that they improved. You can have like custom pronunciations for things in your game, so that she's not like speaking things out loud really weird. There's like, it can literally recommend phrases for your skill to based off of artificial intelligence and like what your term is. It's A/B testing, all this testing type of stuff. I knew APIs also specifically for the Echo Show, because it moves, and so it has to be able to tell what it's detecting as it's moving, and also just like what's happening in the screen. And so now developers can take advantage of seeing that information too. So I think that's most of it. There's like hundreds of millions of devices. The Connect kit for making devices using Amazon's cloud service and like a module in it to make it cheaper is also expanding internationally. The biggest thing is that, I guess, for the smart home world is that they officially announced Matter compatibility. So I think most of the Echo, the newer ones will all work. The Dot, Studio, Flex, Plus, Show, and the normal one. I wrote down, I need to do this research again. I only caught this earlier, but what's not there is relevant also because I'm curious what didn't make the cut. But they were... I was also, this was a fascinating thing too, because I was wondering how much they were like conveniently phrasing how things ended up working out. That like, oh, we've always wanted Echo or ALXA everywhere. And so that like now that it's on Matter, they're like, this fits perfectly into that story. And it's like, it's not necessarily the case. It's like, now that this is the situation, we're happy to be in it. And I was just thinking like, I used to sort of criticize the fact that Amazon was sticking ALEXA in everything. But ultimately now, if that does just mean that I can take advantage of them through Siri and Matter and things like that, I won't mind as much because at least it's there. And Amazon does have the speed and reliability in their service that maybe Apple doesn't do as great of a job at. And so having those products work through Amazon's cloud services and things like that is actually like not the worst thing compared to some other random server that you don't know anything about. So at least that can kind of signify a level of security that otherwise might not be there. And then everybody can take advantage of it. So I thought that was the Matter part is, I think, the biggest thing. And I think it's going to be just interesting to see developer competition at that point. Like, what are these companies giving to developers to convince people to choose their platform versus another, and both in hardware and software, in user experience and variety of options and everything. So I do think like maybe they're getting their butts kicked into gear by having it be shared, and now they do actually have to compete and don't just have the lock-in to write off of. I don't know. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on the overall event?
No, I mean, I like that they've kind of pushed some of these things that maybe would have faded away in the background out and talked about them specifically and showed different examples of it. I don't tend to make use of a lot of the skills because I find that the skills are lacking in comparison to what ALEXA provides on its own. And so I can see why Amazon is trying to make it so that that's no longer the narrative. By providing access to certain tools and making things a lot faster and giving these developers more power. Because right now you kind of go, I don't really want to use that or that because it doesn't really work as well as just using what Amazon provides itself. So all of this is to kind of, I think, encourage developers to keep making stuff instead of what kind of happened, which was when the excitement was up, they made these initial skills, and then now they're just like, well, more people are joining all the time, but we're just working with the same skill that we've had, and we've only done like security updates or what have you. If this can encourage these companies to take some time and rework their skills or improve their skills, I think that's going to be good. Because right now you go into the skills store and there like hardly anything that has more than 2.5 to 3 stars in the skills, because they are for the most part pretty patchy on working. They don't always work how you expect them to. So I think, this is good, and I want to continue to see Amazon do more of this. As far as Matter goes, I love that they're rolling out Matter to everything except for their original Echo, Echo Dot, and the Echo something else. Touch, I think is what it was. Everything since then is going to get Matter support. So that's a lot of Amazon's Echo devices. And we'll see about which ones become hub devices as part of Matter. But it was, it was good to see that they will all be supporting
even like second gen Echo Dots and stuff.
It's everything.
Yeah,
except
probably.
For, it says, let's see, where did that go? Yeah, The only Echo smart speakers that won't get upgraded to Matter are the first gen Echo Dot, and Echo Tap. Everything else since then will get updated. So that's Echo and Echo Dot speakers, every Echo Studio, the Echo Show, the Echo Plus, and the Echo Flex.
I guess that is the benefit
support.
of just the radios, if they chose, are now the same ones. Yeah, that is true. And like you said, they won't all work as like the hub. I got to write down those terminology.
Yeah, because it's different for Thread versus Matter.
That's very interesting. That really does matter. I need a moment. But just because that was always my biggest criticism, especially of the Echo Dot, was that it was like a consumable smart home device that you would end up having to either upgrade or replace because it would get out of date. And now that it could actually work in there, that's like, it just means that that's going to be really good for the story of just like, oh, I have to replace all my smart home things. Like it's a money grab versus like, oh, it'll just work. So that's cool. That is good. I didn't realize it was that. I thought it was just the latest gen. And so I kind of assumed that was going to be the same case, but
yeah, they're going back.
I think it'd just be good to see Skills get more investment. Like you said, when you, I was, in pain a little bit when you were talking about developers adopting the first version and then not really taking the next few. That's kind of what happened with shortcuts, was that a lot of developers did the first version. And so now the shortcuts that they make available aren't taking advantage of the latest features and would be a lot more useful if they did, but aren't because they didn't see that initial investment from people also. And so it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. Whereas when there's a big push from the company from above, that can make a huge difference. So I'm curious to see what they'll do with Skills. You always need the time to let developers build off of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But how they'll market it and push it in the future.
Be encouraged to build off of it. That's what we hope happens.
And then, I have one final headline.
Okay.
Before this, the silly one that I mentioned it to you before. It's paired in with, and also, depending on your opinion, silly announcement about two new celebrity personalities, Shaq and Melissa McCarthy, that just like the Samuel L. Jackson voice that you can buy these now and then have them be your assistant for you, which I think is pretty funny. And also, I also see the strategy behind this is the Samuel L. Jackson one was 99 cents up front, and then these ones are now not. So if you want it, you can pay $5 each. And so that's definitely the way to do it. Is like the first one I just bought because it was like, oh, whatever. Yeah, sure, I'll try it. It's only $1. And then now it's like all the next ones. So you're like, oh, I kind of want that, but now it's $5. So at least Amazon's making money from them.
Yeah. The problem I have with this is that you don't end up getting to have your whole assistant be this voice. It's relegated to it's relegated to you to adding more clunky phrasing and looking for something spit out from what they say. So I don't think anyone should spend money on this. I'm sorry.
So the other detail that snuck into this announcement that I am just very curious about, and if this is Amazon's attempt to use a male name for an assistant that just isn't as traditional as, I mean, not that ALEXA is necessarily traditional, but it's not just like, I don't know, John or whatever, but a new wake word that you can add is Ziggy. So I guess this is the only time that I'm going to say that out loud, just in case somebody decides to, instead of ALEXA or computer or Echo, I guess I just said them all, so hopefully nobody else has those too. But I assume most people don't change it. But now you can say Ziggy and turn on the lights or whatever. So
yeah. So right now
I'm just very curious on this choice of words. But
ALEXA, computer. You can say these are the wake words. Sorry, ALEXA, computer, Echo, or Amazon are the ones that you have a choice between. Now they're adding 5, which is Ziggy. So now you can call it. I guess they didn't even say, is it after Ziggy Stardust? Is it like what's, but along
There's
with,
no context whatsoever.
along with this new wake word, they're adding a new masculine presenting voice as a voice option for ALEXA by default. And so when we put those two together,
that's his name or whatever.
Yeah, that's its name, Ziggy. But even if you stick with the female presenting voice, you can call that one Ziggy too. Just you go into your settings, you change the name to any of those 5 wake words: ALEXA, computer, Echo, Amazon, Ziggy. And then from there, you can say, Ziggy, change your voice, and then Ziggy will change its voice to the masculine presenting option, or back, depending on which one you have. So I'm actually going to do that. I want to see what they sound like with the new voice. So we'll have to hear that as well.
Yeah, on the occasion that you actually use voice. So
precisely, on the rare occasion, like when I was playing the Akinator game, because it doesn't have like an Akinator voice. It just uses the voice of the assistant. So I heard.
I didn't realize initially when you said that you were playing it as a skill.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I had to say, download Akinator, and then Akinator
Ziggy,
launched.
download.
Ziggy, download Akinator. You know what? Here's the deal. We're calling it Ziggy, and so if you change
from now on,
if you change your wake word to Ziggy, that's not on us. That's your choice. So there we go. Line meet sand meet line. Boot, meet ground.
I feel like 6 months from now, people tuning in are going to be like, what the heck are they talking about? Or we're like the only people that know that Ziggy can actually do it.
Yeah, I guess so. Then they can write in and then we can answer it, and eventually everyone will know. So it's not ALEXA, it's Ziggy. I'll probably forget. Let's be real. Anyway, that takes care of that, which means it's time for our picks of the week up next. All right, Matthew Cassinelli. I don't know about you, but I got something in the mail today. And you've already got yours opened. Well, then let me do an unboxing here, and then we can kick over to you. So I got this. Wow. Talk about light reflecting. This is Apple's new MagSafe battery pack. It's for the iPhone that has MagSafe, and just a little case here with, the pull tab. So I'll pull this tab off of the back. It's got a green arrow so I know which way to pull. It does have the little tag on it so that it could be hung on a wall, but obviously I won't be hanging that on the wall anywhere. And then by pulling on the tag, it slides. Nope.
Drops it right on the table.
Apparently you're not supposed to do what I just did.
Do it vertically.
Well, let's try that again.
Got the whole folio
so
and
I've
everything.
got it down. I will slide this out like so, and then cast the box to the side. And then I can lift up to pull the battery pack out itself. Instead of being plastic, this is some sort of paper material that's on the outside now. That's nice. So a little bit more recyclable. And then it comes with the sleeve that has information in it, including safety and handling, regulatory compliance information, and the warranty. Notably, there is no lightning cable in the box that lets me charge it. So I will have to provide both my own lightning cable and my own charger of some sort. And so then I will take this and cast it to the side. And now I've just got a little hump here. It's got the Apple logo. There you go. Got the Apple logo on the back. And on the front, it looks like the ring that you will see on any of Apple's MagSafe charger cases, particularly the clear case, where there's a line at the bottom and then a circle at the top. And then you just take it and you snap it to the, well, that's probably not it. You snap it to the back of your phone like so, and then it can charge, will give your device extra battery. It has a lightning connector at the bottom so that you can plug it in and it will charge the lightning, or that will charge the MagSafe battery pack and your phone at the same time, or, in concert. And then you can, take it off whenever you don't need it. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. It's a battery pack for your iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, it's a couple details. I have the same thing. This is both of our picks of the week, by the way. When the battery pack is plugged in and the phone is on it, it does have that pass-through charging. And I think as long as you have the 20 watt adapter it will send the 15-watt MagSafe like full charge to the phone. So if like you have, basically I figure the use case is if you're charging your battery on the desk or something like that and you plug your phone in, it basically becomes a full MagSafe puck itself and can still charge it at full speed. But otherwise it does only charge your phone at 5 watts. So it's kind of slow. And then the other thing is it doesn't have a full charge for the iPhone 12 Max, Pro Max, whatever they're called now. So it's like less than a full charge. So there are products out there like from Anker that have a giant battery that you can stick on the back and then it'll give you a full charge backup. But this does kind of seem like it's like a top off and like a way to get through the day, not necessarily like recharge my phone from scratch sort of situation.
Yeah, your phone hits low power mode. You pop this on, you've got more juice until you can plug it in and charge it.
Yeah.
Notably, it seems to come not very charged because it's not doing anything on my phone. So I've got to charge it first. Apple's devices usually come with some charge. It probably has some charge, but it needs to kind of get its first one.
Yeah, even just shipping batteries full of charge maybe is not safe.
It has a little LED indicator on the bottom. And so I will plug this in and get it rolling and get it charging. And apparently this product is a way to show, and forgive me if you mentioned this, I was distracted by the fact that it was not charging my device at all. It is a way to realize that the iPhone supports reverse charging, because if you plug the lightning cable into the phone and then put this on the back, it will also charge this if your phone is fully charged. So then the phone, through that MagSafe connector, can charge the battery pack just as much as the battery pack can charge the phone. So there was rumor early on that the iPhone was going to support reverse charging so that you could like lay AirPods on it. But then that never came to fruition. Did you also mention that this will charge your AirPods?
No, yeah, that was the next one.
Gotcha.
I was trying to figure out if this charges on the MagSafe puck.
Oh.
And when I do it, something's moving inside, and I really don't like that.
It's moving?
So, yeah.
That's concerning.
Also, if I like put it on my phone and like go like this, that noise sounds like something's moving. I don't know what it is, but I don't like that at all. So I'm going to stop and look at it, see if anyone else on the internet did something like that, because I don't want pieces flying around or something. I'm just getting more interested in MagSafe as a feature. I think now it's also just like more products like this are proving out. But I mean, you mentioned that little stand in the past. I have the wallet. Mikah's just on screen moving the battery back and forth and grinning.
I also like that it keeps my camera lenses off of the surface of the table.
That's a good point. You don't have to like slightly rest it.
Even though everyone should know those lenses are incredibly strong and scratch resistant, but still, it is nice to.
I did notice as a YouTuber that I can like hold the phone without touching the screen.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing today? Coming out of YouTube. Just
we're live on YouTube right now, so you're making fun of yourself.
Like and subscribe.
Hey, everybody go check out youtube.com/Matthew Cassinelli. So
like and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell.
For real though, I am going to do a live stream setting up personal automations for battery, and also there's charging and low power mode. So I'm going to do a stream this Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific if anybody wants to tune in. And I'll basically just be showing people how to set that up, where
you're waking up
you could
at 9
have like
on a Saturday. Waking up before 9 a.m. on a Saturday.
I'll be up at 6 a.m. every single day, baby.
Oh, well, that's good.
I was literally trying to decide if I should do it earlier because I might just get bored waiting.
That's good sleep hygiene. I'm proud.
Yeah, I guess who knows when I go to sleep though. No, it's actually I've gotten my routine down in the last few weeks. I'm pretty proud of it.
Nice.
But it's trying to incorporate more streaming. So yeah, definitely come join, because I want to do more where it's just like build with me is the title of the stream. It's like automations are kind of hard to set up. And so I also want to see if people have any ideas on how they would use, like you can do a custom low power mode at like 30% instead of 20%, or if your phone's charging, it could change the background or something like that. You can do all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah.
All right.
I guess, should that just be my follow us segment, or?
Yeah. And it's also a little bit of a pick. So $99 MagSafe battery pack. It's kind of expensive for what it is, but hey, as we're traveling more, if you want Apple's own take on the battery pack, there you go. But we should mention that there are some third parties who have battery packs as well. So you can also take advantage of these. I think what Rosemary Orchard touched on that made me kind of understand, this is great as a travel charger, because you plug this in and you set your phone on it at night, and then it does that full MagSafe charging. So it's kind of a nice desk side charger that just also happens to be a battery pack that you can take with you to give you more juice if you need it. So yeah, interesting. I will eat my own words a little bit, that I have criticized Qi chargers that charge at less than 10 watts that cost too much money. And this is like the most expensive version of that. It's a battery pack that only charges at 5 watts and doesn't charge my phone all the way and does cost $99. So it's pretty expensive, but I do think for what it offers, it's pretty interesting. And just like, you just don't have to think about it. Like, I'm just going to slip this in my pocket or my bag and then have charge and not have to bring the little lipstick thing with another cable on it also. So, and just like swap it. Yeah, the lack of another cable to worry about is quite nice. Yeah. All right. That is going to bring us to the end of this episode of Smart Tech Today. If you have questions, feedback, concerns, etc., send those to stt@twit.tv. You can tune in live to check out the show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, usually, sometimes at 2, by going to twit.tv/live at that time. But the best way to get the show is by subscribing to it, so you get it as soon as it's available by going to twit.tv/stt and subscribing to the show in your provider of choice, audio or video. You just click which one you want and find your provider. Click again, and suddenly you are subscribed to Smart Tech Today. That's this show. I should also mention Club TWiT. Club TWiT is the very cool, very exclusive club you should be a part of. It gets you some pretty nifty things, all for $7 a month. You get all of TWiT's shows completely ad-free. You get access to the TWiT Plus bonus feed that has extra content you're not going to get anywhere else, and access to the members-only Discord server, a place where we chitty-chat along with one another. Hosts, producers, TWiT folks, and all of the club members out there join together in fun, and we appreciate all of you who have done so. So if you'd like to join that club, it's twit.tv/clubtwit, where you can sign up, $7 a month, and we are incredibly appreciative to those of you who have done so thus far, and to those of you who will join after hearing these messages. Matthew Cassinelli, if folks want to follow you online and check out all the great work you're doing, where do they go to do so?
It's youtube.com/Matthew Cassinelli. I've got the stream scheduled, and I've got some more Shortcuts videos coming soon. What about you?
Beautiful. You can find me at Mikah Sargent on many a social network, or head to chihuahua.coffee, chihuahua.coffee, where I've got links to many of the places I'm most active online. Be sure to tune in to iOS Today tomorrow with Rosemary Orchard, and we'll see you then. But I think that does it. It is time to say good afternoon to Ziggy.
Good afternoon, Ziggy.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that episode. If you would like to laugh while learning about how to take control and take advantage of all of the features that your iOS devices provide, then you should check out iOS Today. The show Rosemary Orchard, my co-host, and I, Mikah Sargent, host every week on the TWiT network. It's all things Apple all the time.